then it goes to tiny habits. So after I'm feeling frustrated with myself, like I'm not achieving enough or whatever, that I'm not being patient, I say, everyone does the best they can. Nobody tries to screw up. And I direct that toward myself.
Yes, here we are. Here we go.
How are you?
Wow.
I am going to open up the Clubhouse room for anybody that wants to join there. Boom,
Okay.
boom. And then I'm going to take off my headset, put it right by the mic here, and we're going to focus on Instagram.
Okay.
Yay. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. And hi, BJ. It's so good to have you.
It's great to be here, Sam. We have been planning this for a while, and here we are. We are ready to share, and we're going to share new stuff people have never heard before. Yay.
Yes. I cannot wait. So, for everybody, just give me 1 sec, and we are... All right. Okay. So, for anybody that was wondering what I did, I was basically... Here's a hack, actually, because right now I don't have a high quality. The high quality sound that I have is from the phone, and it's a 12 Pro, but I'm using this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to my sound engineer to basically amp it up a bit, just in case. We didn't get a chance to have that conversation before, but that's not a problem. This is something I'm beginning to introduce, but yeah, it's something to kind of increase the quality for everyone, because this is for YouTube as well.
Oh my gosh, we're hitting all the channels.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Well, not now. It's not live on YouTube, just to be clear. Not yet. But yeah, we're aiming for that. So it's going to be edited, mixed, and then it's going to be uploaded to YouTube soon. Okay, so I would love to start this off, kick this off with a introduction to BJ for anyone that doesn't know who BJ is, or anyone that didn't attend the last. Yeah, I know, but now they have the opportunity to know who you are. BJ Fogg is a behavioral scientist who's the founder of Persuasion Lab Technologies 20 years ago, which shifted to Behavioral Design Lab. And yes, and he is the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Tiny Habits. I know it's reversed. If you have a mirror, you can see what it is. It's an incredible book. Anyone that has read it would agree. And
with the new paperback cover design.
Ooh, that is so cool. That is so cool.
For the US market, it's being translated into about 30 other languages with different covers for most of those.
Amazing. That is amazing. BJ, it's so good to have you here, and let's begin.
Awesome.
Okay, so let me go back in time for a second. So December 27th, BJ Fogg and I had an interview on Instagram live. At the end of it, BJ Fogg proposed for me to have a list of habits on his tool, the recipe maker, on the tinyhabits.com website to create habits for my audience. So the idea was to receive habit requests in order for me to come up with habits for that problem or habits for that, so, habits for the issue itself or the theme or the topic or all that. So I was flooded, I think would be the best word to describe what happened, with hundreds of requests, habit requests. And it took a while to go through them. But as soon as I went through them, I sent them to BJ, and he received them.
There were a lot. There were patterns to them. And that's what we were looking for. It's like, what do you all need the most help with, want the most help with? And the response was terrific.
And so we were basically going through it. And one of the suggestions was to go through each habit and come up with habits for that. That would have taken forever. So, and the pattern was basically all of them were aspirations. They were not behaviors. They were aspirations. And so to convert them into a behavior, would have taken forever. So BJ suggested that I think of one that I can create habits for, one topic. And then we can...
Sam, let me comment on the difference a little bit, because this is really important.
Yes, please.
There is a difference between an aspiration like, I want to be more productive or I want to be less stressed, and a specific habit or behavior of write for 10 minutes on my book every day or meditate in the backyard with my dog every morning. And what most people do, and this is what you all did, is when you were telling us what challenges you were facing, what habits you wanted, they really came back as aspirations and not specific habits. And that's okay, and that's entirely normal. But what we couldn't do, like Sam said, was take every single aspiration and say, here's the exact habit. So instead, we looked for the area that you wanted the most, and boom, back to you, Sam.
So that was an interesting task, to think of one topic to come up with habits for, and there were hundreds. So I looked for the pattern to figure out, okay, so what, if I can come up with one topic that can be useful to all the requests, that would be the game changer. That would simplify it, because I don't want to disappoint anyone. I wanted to find a way to basically satisfy everyone's request. So the answer was basically creating focus. The topic was focus, and coming up with habits for focus. And the reason for that is everything requires focus. That's number one. Number two, focus. When people focus, they're becoming more present. And a lot of people asked about presence. It becomes easier for you to learn. A lot of people talked about that. It becomes a lot easier for you to connect with someone else. A lot of people talked about that. And it's also linked to relaxation. It's linked to stepping into the flow state. It's linked to de-stressing. So there's so many different aspects that just focus, the way I was perceiving focus at the time. And BJ then clarified that for me. And he was like, you're looking at, I think we should call it calm focus. And that was perfect, because it wasn't energetic focus, it was calm focus. So thank you, BJ, for that. And that's the title of the list of habits, calm focus. What you're about to see, and we're gonna invite you to do something we've never done before, actually, and that's why I didn't even announce it. So if it's possible to be done now, that would be amazing. The idea here is you're going to be seeing the toolkit, the website, tinyhabits.com/recipe maker. I'm going to say it several times.
Oh, it's /recipes. Sorry. Yes.
Recipes with an S.
tinyhabits.com/recipes with an S. Yes.
Recipes maker. Okay. tinyhabits.com/recipes maker. Oh, just recipes.
Yeah, well, there are two ways you can get there, and this creates the confusion. One is recipemaker.tinyhabits.com. The other way is simpler, which is tinyhabits.com/recipes.
Done. That's a lot easier. So if you have access to another device, another smartphone, another iPad, a laptop, if you have access to an extra device in addition to what you're using to access this live right now, you can actually follow BJ Fogg guiding you through the anchors and the habits that follow the anchors. The anchor is the scenario, the situation, or whatever whatever is happening before you start to basically utilize the habit. So he will guide you through it if you do. If you don't, not a problem. He's going to explain it. And when you're ready, you can actually go back. And here's what's cool. Because this is recorded, what you could do is, even if you don't have access right now, you can go back to watch this on the phone. And when you have access to a laptop, you can actually follow the guidance here to actually utilize it properly if you'd like to. So not a problem whatsoever if you don't have access, but if you do, that would be amazing, because he's going to explain it right now. And before we continue, I just want to clarify that the anchors, the scenarios, any habit can be utilized for any of the scenarios that are mentioned. And these anchors vary from leisure, it could be anything. It could be connection with someone else. It could be conflict resolution, sitting down with someone you care about. It could be a task at home. There are many types of tasks. There's a one-timer that you've been delaying for a long time. There's something that is ongoing, like a project that you basically go through. There are different types, and it could be work-related, studying-related. It will work with everything. And it's really about starting and maintaining momentum. And these habits would work with both. I'll leave it to you.
There we go. Well, let me take about 30 seconds and speak to people on Clubhouse. Hey, everybody in Clubhouse. Yes, you're not hearing the audio through Sam's mic, because if you did, you would hear it twice. So you'll just hear it through me. And I think people can hear okay. And those of you in Clubhouse, I'm here with Sam Karashi, and we're on his Instagram Live. Sam, how do they find you? If the Clubhouse people want to jump from Clubhouse, watch this in video, how do they find this live?
If they go to your profile or mine, they would click on the Instagram and it will take them to the page. They just click on the live, which is going to be at the top of the page.
And so we're mostly thinking of this as an Instagram Live experience in Clubhouse. Y'all, I'm there a lot, but decided just to patch you in. What if you have access to another device? People here on Instagram, people on Clubhouse, you can just do this and you can still listen on Clubhouse. Go to your web browser and go to the tool that we call Recipe Maker. And that's at the URL, tinyhabits.com/recipes. Now you can do this on your computer, you can do it on a tablet, you can do it on your mobile phone. If you do it while you're on Instagram Live, apparently it pauses you on live. So if you're on Instagram Live, find a different device. If you go there on a computer, make the window narrow. Okay, so you want to go to tinyhabits.com/recipes, and I'm going to walk you through what we have there. We have 12 habits that Sam has designed for you. So this is a big deal, everybody. There are 12 habits that this expert here in front of you, or that you're listening to, Sam has designed for you after looking at hundreds of entries of people that wanting help. I'm going to walk you step by step through those 12 habits briefly, and then Sam's going to go further. Now, if you're looking at Recipe Maker, and if you're looking at it on a mobile phone or in a narrow view, you will see a top half and a bottom half. If you're just listening, you can just imagine. Okay, in the top half, those are the habits. The bottom half are the anchors. We'll get to the anchors in a minute. We're going to start with the habits at the top. One calm focus habit is to switch notifications off your phone. Now you can swipe that card to the left and then see the next habit. The next habit is say out loud or write down how I feel about the task ahead. That's habit number 2. We'll come back to this. Number 3, do 1 session of Wim Hof breathing. Okay, so again, if you're following along on Recipe Maker, you're just swiping the cards on the top in the Calm Focus category. And we're going to go to card number 4, or habit number 4, designed by Sam. Redirect my entire body to what I'm doing. Habit number 5, look at the object that I'll use and nod slowly for 10 seconds. Next habit. It's a little like the one before with a twist. Look at the object that I'll use with a smirk of confidence. I like that. Next, okay, we're going to see some variations on a theme here. Look at the object that I'll use and nod slowly for 10 seconds with a smirk of confidence. So you're combining a few things. And then a tweak on this. Look at the object that I'll use and nod slowly as I imagine using that object. Of course, imagine yourself using the object. Next habit, and we're going to come back to these, so don't feel like you're overwhelmed. I'm just giving you a sense of them. Engage my peripheral awareness for a few moments. And 2 more. Tell people I live with that I need uninterrupted focus for X minutes. So if you're looking at the Recipe Maker tool, at the bottom, it tells you when you might do this. So for example, right now the recipe is, after I decide to focus on something, I will tell people I live with that I need uninterrupted focus for X minutes. And we'll get back to the pairing. And now, actually there's 2 more. Remove my watch and hide other timekeeping devices from view. So that's a habit for calm focus. And finally, a kind of a variation on what we talked about earlier is close my eyes, nod slowly, and imagine myself doing the task. And that one might be paired with, after I feel rushed, or after I feel myself rushing, I will close my eyes, nod slowly, and imagine myself doing the task. So there you have a complete recipe. Now, if you swipe back all the way to the beginning, so swipe, 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 look at the top card, and it says switch off notifications on my phone. At the bottom half, it tells you, it gives you suggestions when to do it. And Sam, I'll just hit a couple of these and then we'll go to you to talk about why these habits. So the recipe maker, what it does is not only gives you a specific habit to do, but it helps you pair it. Like, when are you going to do this? So in this case, the first option is that you'll switch notifications off your phone after you prepare your desk to start studying. That makes sense, right? But if that doesn't work for you, then you swipe the bottom card and you see when else might you do it. Well, after you get ready to focus on a project, after you get ready to read a book, and as you swipe, you see other situations when you might do the habit of switching off notifications on your phone. And that's how it works for every habit. First, pick the habit that you can see yourself doing in the top half of the interface. And again, if you're looking at a web browser and it's wide, narrow it, because this is really designed for mobile phones. So you want one card on top of the other. So first pick the habit on the top and then swipe the bottom cards to find out when will you be doing this habit. And when you love it, you push the blue bar, and we'll talk about that later. Sam, let's go back to you to talk about these habits one by one.
So I'm going to go through the habits from the Google Sheet that we've done, just to kind of touch upon it in a different order, but it's not a problem. I mean, we're going to touch upon the 12. So the first thing I want to touch upon is tell the ones I live with that I need uninterrupted time for X minutes. It's so simple. It's so straightforward, right? Like, people don't do this. People don't do this. You're at home, you're living with someone, and you're ready to do something. You're ready to start you're ready to start a project. You're ready to start studying, read a book, watch a movie. You want to play a video game, whatever that you want to do. And it happens over and over that someone knocks on the door, someone opens the door, you hear someone yelling your name, and then asking you, why didn't you answer? Because you had headphones, because they didn't know. The thing is, a lot of times in relationships, it doesn't matter what type of relationship, but in relationships, if you don't, a lot of people complain that the person in front of them isn't helping them, isn't supporting them in what they're doing. But the question, when I ask them, did you ask them to support you? Did you tell them what you want? They pause. Well, they're not psychic. They will not know. They cannot know what you want if you don't tell them. And the easiest thing to do is just to tell them. That's the best way to enhance this relationship. Just tell them. And when it comes to focus, in terms of focus is also about preparation to avoid distraction and interruption, because interruption is stressful.
Yeah. It doesn't. Sam, can I ask a question about that habit? I mean, I really like it. Please. And I practiced it in my life, where, I just tell my partner, just straight up, here's what I need, or here's what I'm doing. Why, and you've helped and coached a lot of people in this area, why do you think people resist doing this? What are they afraid of? Are they afraid that their spouse or their kids will get mad at them? Like, hey, you can't interrupt me for 60 minutes or 2 hours. Why do you think people might resist doing this habit?
Well, I think a lot of people have fears of rejection. They fear the loss of the person on some level, even though that's an exaggeration, but on an unconscious level, it isn't. We have been taught to not speak up and ask for what we want, to not share our opinion, to not ask questions. This has started or has begun since, I guess, first grade in school. And because of that, it just makes it a lot harder for people to just speak up and share what they want. And the thing is, they're afraid of being rejected. They're afraid of the resistance to their request. And in most cases, if there is a resistance to the request, if you have asked and they have resisted, by the way, that is not because of the request as much as it's because of the way you've requested it. So the phrasing of the request, that's a much bigger topic, because when I gave the psycholinguistics training at the Human Hacking Conference 2 weeks ago, this was something really huge. Language of possibility is so important. Language of inclusion is so important. Language of detachment. This is a huge topic, but the way you choose the words determine whether you get a yes or no more than the request. But in something as simple as this, you're probably not going to get rejected. Here's the thing. This is an exercise in boundaries. And boundaries is something that we don't enforce in relationships. Boundaries is something that we need. And not just in intimate relationships, but in relationships with everybody, to actually reinforce boundaries. You need to clarify what your boundaries are. And a lot of people don't know what their own boundaries are, which is a bigger problem, basically. So I would say it is an exercise and practice in boundary creation, but also, and this is an indirect way of actually making it more useful. It's a way to connect with the person you're living with. If you want someone in your life to support what you do, get them involved in what you do so they start caring about it with you.
Sam, do you remember I had you meet my partner?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that was why. I mean, because we've been collaborating. I look forward to collaborating you more and more. And I guess just instinctively, it's like, okay, I'm going to be talking about Sam to my partner, so they need to meet. And so we did that on Zoom, like 2 months ago or something. Yeah. And it made a difference. It really made a difference. Let me go back to this habit, though. So the habit, and let me reset the room for everybody here in Clubhouse. I'm talking to Sam Karashi. We're mostly doing it on Instagram Live with Clubhouse on the side. And Sam has derived 12 habits for calm focus. And then I put them into a Tiny Habits tool called Recipe Maker. And you can find it at tinyhabits.com/recipes. It's a really simple way to form habits. And when you go to that site, tinyhabits.com/recipes, and the top cards, the first category is calm focus, and there are 12 habits there. Swipe over about 10 cards to find the habit that says, tell people I live with that I need uninterrupted focus for X minutes. Once you have that in the center of your screen, look at the bottom, and then you can see what you're pairing it with. When are you going to do it? The first option is this. After I decide to focus on something, I will tell people I live with I need uninterrupted focus for X minutes. And if that isn't the best for you, then swipe the bottom card, and it might be after I prepare my desk to start studying. If you don't like that, swipe the bottom card again. After I get ready to read a book, and you might go, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need. After I get ready to read a book, I will tell people I live with not to interrupt me. And if that's a good match for you, then you can take a screenshot of it. You can write it down. You can click the blue button on the bottom. It will take you to the next page. So that's how you use Recipe Maker. We're going to continue with different habits. And Sam, I just wanted to drill down a little bit and help people see how Recipe Maker works. We have 12 habits to share with you. We won't spend so much time on each one, but that was the first one. And that's how you use Recipe Maker. Sam, back to you.
So the other one is about the notifications. Switch off notifications on my phone. So after blank, whatever it is, after I decide to start something, switch off notifications on my phone. I just want to make this clear. To me, this habit is something that you can do whenever you want to focus. Switch off notifications. The way I do it, I do not have notifications on my phone. I just want to be clear. One of the most important things, one of the healthiest things any human being can do for their own psychology, for their mental health while using smartphones is switching off notifications. I know this is not something that is supported by Instagram or Clubhouse, or they encourage this, but it takes away choice. It takes away control. It makes people in control of you. They interrupt you whenever they want. They invade your privacy whenever they want. And you lose control over the technology that is meant to serve you instead of you serving it. And so I switch off notifications. There is not a single app that I have that has notifications. I'm the one that chooses when to go to WhatsApp, when to go to Instagram. Do you have any idea if notifications were on Instagram, how interrupted my life would be and disrupted?
It would be like a disaster.
Thousands of likes, I have over 15,000 DMs, receiving likes, receiving comments, oh my God, it would have been a nightmare. So one thing I would recommend is switching off notifications. Any interruption equals a threat on an unconscious level. Any interruption on an unconscious level. So the idea is when you switch that off, there is no interruption because the interruption is a sudden change. And anything sudden to us, instinctively, we assume it's something threatening. We assume it's something that is about to attack us on an unconscious level. Now, that's the notifications. So just to move on from that, but before we do, I think because there are people that have joined as well, what's the link for them to go so they can play with it?
Yeah, I'll drill down on this. So Sam has created 12 calm focus habits and notifications. Number 2, we have 10 more coming. We have put them into a tool that's called Recipe Maker. You can find it at tinyhabits.com/recipes with an S on the end. And you'll see cards on the top. And those are the calm focus habits. And the first one in Recipe Maker you'll see is this one. Switch off notifications on my phone. On the bottom are situations when you would do it. So for example, you might switch off notifications after you prepare your desk to start studying, after you place your laptop in front of you, after you realize your mind is wandering, after you turn on your computer for a Zoom call, or after you feel like you've had a setback on a project. So you can swipe those bottom cards to find one that goes, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. One of them would go like this. After I realize the deadline is just a few minutes away, I will switch off notifications on my phone. You can imagine how helpful that would be. Now, it would probably be better if, after I sat down to do the project, you turn on the notifications, but sometimes we forget. But that's the benefit of creating these habits. And that's the reason we are having this session, is so you can very reliably do these behaviors. So as soon as you sit down at your desk to start studying, your brain goes, boom, turn off notifications. You do that and you can have calm focus on whatever you're doing.
And the reason why it's calm focus is because it's about allowing you to step into a space that allows you to focus while being relaxed. That allows you to be open, receptive to information if you want to learn, receptive to what your mind is telling you. There's so much that you can allow yourself to be open to the moment you are calm using the calm focus list of habits. Now, telling someone that you need uninterrupted time is about avoiding the enemy of focus, which is interruption, distraction, the enemy of calm focus, which is a threat because of that interruption. It's hard for you to be focused if you're not calm. And one of the best ways to be calm is to be focused. They work together beautifully. So that's the second thing. The third habit is remove my watch and other timekeeping devices from view. Now, you could easily, if you have your phone next to you, you could switch off the notifications, right? But the phone is still there. The thing is about time is it's probably one of the greatest distractions that we have. We don't realize how many times we check the time, how obsessed we are in terms of time. And one of the things that they found, there are different reasons why children are happier and they absorb things faster. But one of the things is they don't care about time. There is no time constraint. They are not time focused. Whatever they're doing, time does not exist in that moment. They're just doing it. They're not doing it for 5 minutes. They're just doing it. And as long as you eliminate time, there are other aspects to that, but as long as you eliminate time, they're in flow. There's nothing else occupying their mind that they're multitasking in their head that is distracting them from what they're doing right now. They are focused on what they are doing because there is no distraction. And when you have your time with your watch or the phone, what ends up happening is there's the time constraint and then there's time consciousness. If you're time conscious, you're constantly checking your phone. If you hide the phone, put it away. It's not just about turning it. It's about putting it away completely. It's out of sight. You're no longer thinking about it. Now, let's say one question would be, okay, but I don't want to lose track of time because I have something else that I need to do. Great. Set the timer on your phone and put it away. The phone is going to do the job for you. You no longer need to double check how much time you have left. Allow the time to allow yourself to be absorbed with the time you have. When the time is up, you're going to hear it. you're done for now. You move on to the next task and you go back to this tomorrow. As simple as that. So that's regarding the time, removing my watch and other timekeeping devices. Doing, for example, the Wim Hof. Now, this can work for anything because what it does is it actually enhances your focus. It lowers your amygdala activity in the brain, which makes it easier for you to be relaxed. What it creates is what I like to call energized relaxation. You can go either way once you're done. You can relax and get sedated and sleep, or you can actually do something energetic.
Sam, your followers on Instagram are probably really familiar with Wim Hof and the method and the breathing, but maybe not everybody and maybe not people on Clubhouse right now. So the habit is do one session of Wim Hof breathing. Can you summarize what that is, actually?
Okay, I'm not going to touch upon Wim. I'm not going to. No. I'm not going to do that. It's created by Wim Hof, a Dutch athlete that broke 26 Guinness World Records. Dear friend of mine. I've interviewed him twice. If you want to check out more about the Wim Hof method, there are 2 interviews. My first 2 interviews were with Wim. I interviewed him twice in the first 3 weeks of starting this live. And the Wim Hof breathing is a powerful way to super oxygenate yourself, to shift the levels of oxygen and levels of CO2. One of the fastest ways to suppress the amygdala, deactivate or lower the activity of the amygdala, which allows you to overcome fear. It allows you to lower cortisol. It allows you to lower any inflammatory state in the body. It's so powerful to boost your immune system as well, and that's a very fascinating thing. One reason is because it lowers cortisol, it reduces your fear. It automatically lowers the stress that it combats stress. So that's an indirect way of protecting your immune system, but it has a direct effect on your immune system. It has a direct effect on your nervous system. It energizes you. It gives you clarity. And in this situation, if you do a Wim Hof breathing session, which could be 3 rounds or just 1, and you can double check that. Again, you could check my website. You could check the live that was recorded with Wim. There are 2. The first one actually goes deep into it. The second was Q&A, but you can go into the first one. Doing that increases your energy, gives you a state of calmness. It allows you to, your mind becomes clear and focused and ready to step into any activity. This is amazing for multiple applications, and I'm just going to give you a few. If I lose appetite, I'm in a restaurant, I just don't feel good, and I lost my appetite. I want to increase the appetite a bit so I can enjoy the food. I do 1 round. If I want to watch a movie, I sometimes do the Wim Hof method. I could just do 1 or 2 rounds, and it sets me up because now that I've reset my nervous system, it's like you are shaking off anything before in preparation of what you're going to do now. So you enjoy watching the movie, reading the book, and you're going to have more energy if you want to start a project or work on a task. And you can be more alert and aware and present if you're connecting with another human being in front of you, a friend, a partner. It is amazing to reset. Now, it has a lot of other applications, but that goes beyond the scope of what we're talking about.
And so the habit, that the number 1 pairing that Sam has suggested goes like this. After I feel a setback while doing a project, I will do 1 session of Wim Hof breathing. So after you feel a setback, so you can see how this is a good fit. Now, there's other ways to pair it. You can see that on Recipe Maker. But what Sam has done for each one of these habits, he's picked what he thinks is the best pairing. And in this case, it's after I feel a setback while doing a project.
Yes. The other that kind of pairs beautifully with the Wim Hof method is say out loud or write how I feel about the task ahead. Now, that's really interesting. I like this one so much. I've never done this. And so when you suggested it, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So explain more. So the pairing is after I feel a resistance towards starting a task, I will say out loud or write how I feel about the task ahead. That's nice. And I thought that was a perfect pairing because because to us, a lot of times we resist. There's a resistance that we're not even aware of. There's an invisible resistance. Sometimes when you keep delaying something, you're suggesting to the unconscious mind that that's a threat without you even knowing, because delaying is a form of avoidance. Why do we avoid something? We avoid it to keep ourselves safe. Why would we want to do that? Because it's a potential threat. That's the unconscious mind. It's not true, but that's what your behavior is suggesting to the unconscious mind. So the idea is just start, because when you start, automatically start to break that habit. But when it comes to expressing how you feel, if I were to suggest, this is probably the most important habit to mention, because this goes beyond the scope of habits in terms of helping you focus or relax. It's also a habit to help you process emotions. It's also a habit to help you release tension. It's a habit to release frustration, anxiety, sadness. It's so powerful to express how you feel, to lighten the load of what's weighing you down and what's holding you back and what's slowing you down. And so when it comes to this, the applications are endless. But one thing that's really powerful is something that was in Amy Chan's book. There was a UCLA study by Dr. Matthew D. Lieberman, if I'm not mistaken. And it was about expressing anger through writing. Now, I don't agree with the phrasing. I don't think it's ideal. And I would love to connect with anyone that can help with conducting a study related to that. But what he found was by expressing how you feel through writing, and I think the sentence was, "I am feeling the emotion of anger."
Yeah.
That lowered the activity of the amygdala and increased the activity of the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex in the brain, which is responsible for behavior inhibition and emotional processing, increasing emotional processing. So processing your emotions through expressing is so powerful. It's actually one of the most powerful things I've ever come across. If there was one habit, it would be this. Here's what's cool about it, though. To integrate after that microprocessing, doing the Wim Hof breathing after it accelerates the effect of it. And that's a beautiful pairing if you choose to combine them, which that's not in the tool. That's not in on the website in the link, but that's basically what I would recommend. So let's say I'm resisting, right? Let me give you an example.
I'll give an example. I'll give an example, and you can correct me if it's not.
Sure.
So I'll rewind my life about 5 days. The students applying for my Stanford course, they have to apply and they have to do a project. So let's suppose that 5 days ago, I was resisting looking at their projects. Like, yeah, I know I need to look at them, but I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else. And then using this habit, after I feel a resistance to starting the task, looking at my students' projects, I will say out loud how I feel about the task ahead. Here's what I would have said, Sam. When I look at these projects, I'm going to find students that did a bad job, probably, and then I'm going to have to tell them they can't join my class, and I'm going to make them sad, and that's going to make me sad. Bam, now I know why I'm resisting, because I'm afraid I'm going to uncover bad news.
Here's the thing, though. There's a way to actually make this even more effective, which is to phrase it in the following. When I think about blank, I can feel blank. And you keep saying, I can feel blank, I can feel blank. So in your case, when I think about, what was it? It was reaching out to the students, for example?
Telling the students whether they made it into my class or not, and that depends on the quality of their project. Yeah.
Okay. So when I think about reaching out to the students to tell them whether they made it into the class, I can feel fear. What else can I feel? I can feel
disappointment.
It could be anything. Here's the thing: disappointment. I can feel shame. I can feel resentment. And suddenly some emotions would come out to you. It would not make sense, but it doesn't matter. It's what's in. What we feel is a cluster of emotions. We just think it's just one. It's actually so much more. And keep writing that. And it's important to say, I can feel over and over and over, because we are learning to make it easier for us to express what was trapped and suppressed, because that is linked to so many other things in our lives. And we're lightening the load, and it allows for the process to happen. And guess what? The moment you lighten the load, the emotions that were linked to that resistance, suddenly it becomes so much easier to do the task, because
Okay, so thank you for clarifying. I thought I would just do one and somehow, and that's, but you just keep going. You unpack various emotions
until you're done. Until you're done. And when you're done, that's it. There's nothing else. Here's what's important to clarify. And I think this is a perfect time because this is an application that can be used for anything beyond just that. If you say, I can feel resentment, then you'd want to think towards, and you say towards that individual, and then you go down that rabbit hole. It doesn't matter who you feel it towards, whether it's yourself or someone else. All I want you is to capture what the emotion is and move on. Number two, it doesn't matter the degree, because a lot of people would be apologetic to themselves. They're like, I can feel a little ashamed. No, you feel ashamed. That's fine. Don't magnify, don't minimize, just say it as it is. Number three, if you say, I can feel angry, you tend to want to say, because how could they do that? I remember what they did. And now you go down a rabbit hole of justification. You don't need to justify how you feel. Why you feel doesn't matter. How you feel is everything. Write that down, because that's the most important thing. Just write how you feel.
Okay. So the phrase, and this doesn't come from Recipe Maker. Recipe Maker will give you when to do the habit. But the specific, I can feel. Now, Sam, I know you think about details and words very carefully. Why isn't it I will feel or I might feel? Why is it I can feel?
Because when you're thinking about it, can is a language, and that goes into the psycholinguistics. Can is a language of possibility.
Okay.
And can is also it allows for ability as well. You can feel it, and it's possible to feel it. There's so much tied into it. But when you say, I can feel, it's the truth. When you think of that, you can feel. Now, there's another variant, which is I feel. But that only makes sense if you're feeling it right now. If something happened in your life and you're feeling it in this moment, just keep on writing. Just grab a piece of paper. I feel blank, I feel blank, I feel blank, and just keep going. You're lightening the load. This is so simple, but science is backing it up. And it's one of the most powerful ways to process emotions. Now, that is microprocessing. It's not deep processing, but it's something that is easy as a tool for anyone in their life to allow themselves to manage emotions more effectively by releasing it instead of sitting with it and feeling it silently when it was meant to be expressed. Suppressing the truth about how you feel without even knowing that that's damaging you and that's holding on to the emotion. And it just allows you to learn to be comfortable expressing the truth about how you feel, because a lot of problems we have is linked to suppressing the truth and suppressing the truth about how we feel, basically. Now, I know this is a massive detour, but I think this is so important. It's probably the most important piece, and we can move on. Okay,
so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a template that says, I can feel. So I'm just have a template and have it on hand and ready to go.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I would suggest not to do that because when you write, I can feel, you're reinforcing the possibility and giving yourself permission to feel. So that's why it's so important to write it, because a lot of people would say, I could just say, I can feel resentment, ashamed, angry. No. You missed the whole point, because I can feel, write it again. There's a lot of power, and it's very meticulously designed. This is not my creation, just to be clear, but I broke it down. I analyzed it in a very deep way on a psychological level. It's so powerful.
So powerful.
We are on, I think, habit number 4 of 12, and this is the most important one as Sam sees it. Sam has designed 12 calm focus habits for us, and you can find them at tinyhabits.com/recipes under the calm focus category. And this one we went deepest on. And I'm really glad I asked for those clarifications, because I would have done it in a suboptimal way and then maybe other people listening also benefited from your further guiding on I can feel. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next one, actually we did 5 at the moment, as far as I can see. Tell the ones I live with that I need uninterrupted time, switch off notifications on my phone, remove my watch and other timekeeping devices, say out loud or write how I feel about the task ahead, and do 1 session of the Wim Hof. That's 5. So we got 7 to go. And okay, so this one's interesting. Redirect my entire body to what I'm doing. This is something I learned from the samurai in Japan when I was training with the samurai in Japan. It was such an interesting experience. So one of the things that I learned, I spent 2 days with the samurai. I did sword fighting and Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, or Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu came out of, he's a black belt in that and grandmaster. And I was like, I found out the next day, I was like, I want to stop sword fighting. I want to do that. And so one of the things that we did was a lot of focus on energy and how, so there's a lot about focus, but when it comes to redirecting my entire body, I thought this was really interesting to add as a habit. So what we did is I was trying to push him. I was trying to push him and I was unable to push him. And he said,
oh, like physically push him. Like he's standing there and you're pushing against
He's standing in front of me. I was trying to push him.
Exactly. And it was frustrating because I was trying to push him, but it wasn't working. So he said, why do you think that is? And I just couldn't answer him. I was like, I don't know. You're stronger, maybe? I have no idea. And he said, look at your feet. And this is basically what I was doing. So I was at an angle and my left leg was moved was forward and it was leaning towards him. I was leaning towards him and my left leg was basically leading the charge. Now, my left foot was aimed, if somebody's looking from it's like a bird's eye view on top of me or over me, it was like 2:00. And I was aiming at 12. And he said, your body is in conflict with you. You want your body to serve you, but you're aiming the body in a different direction. The knee follows the foot. Your knee is moving at 2:00. Your foot is moving at 2:00. Move your feet to where you want to go, and your body will follow it, and your knee will follow it, and your entire body will follow it. And so the moment I just made that slight shift with my foot, my knee followed it, I was focused on it, and it was so much easier because my entire body was directed towards me. It was unable to stop me. The reason why I'm suggesting this here is the power of aiming your entire body, because there's a psychological aspect to this. If I am looking away like that, I'm just looking at you, but my entire body's moving away. How do you feel? Let's just talk about how do you feel.
I feel like you are on TikTok and not really listening to me. You're not really with me. Yes.
I'm not with you. Now, that's what you are registering on a conscious level and an unconscious level. But what I'm picking up as well unconsciously, because of the conscious decision I made, is you're not important. The audience is not important. This is not important. There's something else that's more important. I know that the focus is really about where the eyes go, but because of the conflict, there's going to be a cognitive dissonance going on, an inner conflict of what's more important. Now, the eyes may win, but because the entire body's not moving in that direction, it's easy for me to be distracted from what I'm doing. And so if my entire body is focused on what I'm looking at, whether it's a book or a movie or a task or a project or my laptop
person or on a Zoom call.
Yes. When that happens, automatically, the person will feel heard and received. And this is part of inducing safety in someone else, giving them your full attention. But it's also about allowing you to not be distracted by your thoughts. One way to not be distracted by your thoughts is to allow the mind to be convinced that this is the one thing you want to focus on, because your body's moving and your body's aimed towards that. Think of your shoulders as like there are beams, there's this laser in between. Where is it directed? Where is it directed? It has to be in front of you if that's what you want to focus on. It's so simple. And here's what's interesting about this. This is deceptively prevalent and popular right now more than any time in history because of the phone. So you can be sitting with someone, but you're on your phone checking a text. So now there's conflict happening. And there are so many people that would say, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Keep talking. I was just checking something. It could be a game. It could be this. It's very disrespectful. And obviously, when the person that is on the receiving end is okay with it, you are enabling bad behavior. The right thing to do is to say, I'll stop until you're done, or maybe we could pick it up some other time. that person is going to stop and they're going to give you attention. This is an indirect way of establishing boundaries. And this is, you cannot afford to allow other people to do this, because you're helping them, enabling their bad behavior, and that's going to basically affect other people. But you're also devaluing yourself in that moment. You're lowering your self-esteem and self-worth by allowing them to detach from you, reject you indirectly through through their physical being, physiological or physical rejection. And what ends up happening is unconsciously you feel rejected. They didn't reject you with words. They rejected you with posture. They rejected you with the way they were moving.
Yeah. So Sam, that suggests another tiny habit recipe that's not a calm focus habit. It's after I see somebody paying attention to their phone rather than what I'm saying, I will say, what should they say? Give us the phrase again. I will say.
I haven't thought of that, but let's pick this up later. For example,
I'll give it a
simple
try.
as that.
I'm not the expert that Sam is on these kind of interpersonal relationships. I will say, wow, what I'm telling you is important. Let me know when you're done on the phone and I'll tell you the rest.
That's a good one, because what that suggests as well is you are supportive to what they're doing as well. It doesn't matter how you do it, but that's a good one, because you're suggesting support, and at the same time, you're respecting that something else is important to them at that moment, and you are respecting yourself as well. And here's the thing. If you're sharing something, it's very important. When someone's not giving your full attention, what you're telling their unconscious mind and yours is that it's not valuable enough to be given full attention, or you would have stopped and not shared it in that moment with them.
It's so subtle.
There's nuances here. Wow. A lot of nuances.
The powers. Yeah.
The powers in the nuance. So that's redirecting focus. I'm going to brush through the rest very quickly, because there's a lot of questions for you, BJ, and I'm like, okay, this feels like you're interviewing me now. And but yeah, this is your live too. So you're not just a guest, you are a host. So okay.
I'm endlessly curious, and I'm always in learning mode, Sam. And really, this is about highlighting these habits that you came up with. I helped, but you came up with, and so we're highlighting these 12. So move forward at the pace that you want.
Okay. All right. Okay. Look at the object I'll use and slowly nod for 10 seconds. Now, this is a very important one because it ties into the power of slowing down. We live in a world where we're rushing all the time, and slowing down is very important, because when you start to slow down, you are allowing yourself to be more focused. It's hard to be focused when you are speeding up. Can you even pay attention to what's happening on screen if you're fast forwarding a movie? Of course not, because things are happening too quickly for you to actually take it in. It's hard to see the scenery if you're driving 200 miles per hour on the countryside, if you're looking at what's near you, for example. But if you slow down, you could see the distant, into the distant, you can see what's happening out there. But if you want to look at the flowers or the grass or anything that's happening near the car, you can't. You need to slow down. Slowing down allows us to be more precise, because speed compromises precision. We become more precise when we slow down. It also suggests that we are safe. We had a conversation about safety, the idea of if you're moving quickly, it suggests that there's a threat that you are escaping, or you're seeking shelter in some way or form. You're worried about a consequence of something that would happen that threatens you. When you slow down, there is no threat. When you slow down, you are safe. When you slow down, you are relaxed. And when you're relaxed, you can be focused. And that's where the idea of nodding.
Well, let me give the example. So you paired it with this anchor. After I turn on my computer for a Zoom call, I will look at the object that I'll use and slowly nod for 10 seconds. So in that case, I'm probably looking at the camera on my computer and the screen, and I'm nodding. How slow? This slow?
As slow as you would like, but you see, the slower, the more effective it is. Because here's the thing, the groups of muscles that we have, you just need a single muscle group to slow down for the entire body to slow down. It's so interesting The mind follows the body follows the mind, but even parts of the body follow the rest. And that's why the fastest way actually is slowing down your breathing. But we're not getting into that. But the idea is you slow down the diaphragm, it's going to slow down everything. But you can slow down using any group. The benefit of this, there's another thing that I thought of to combine with the slowing down, is when you are doing this, and this is something I was mentioning in the psycholinguistics as well, because it's about verbal, nonverbal communication that alters emotional state of self and others. That's my definition of psycholinguistics. So if I'm looking at someone in a conversation and you're talking, and I'm doing that, versus
Oh, totally different. Totally different.
what I'm suggesting by speeding up that, even though it could be excitement, what I'm suggesting is please, I know what you're saying. Let's move on. Can we speed this up a bit? I get it. Get to the point. It can really convey the wrong message, and it does unconsciously. But when you slow down, you're basically saying, I'm with you. I'm absorbing every drop of what you're saying. I respect you and I respect what you're saying. And I'm listening, and I'm present, and I'm here. It's very powerful. Slowing down. Here's the thing. It suggests acceptance, and it creates the illusion of agreement. So the person that's talking believes that you're actually agreeing with them, even though you are accepting what they're saying as their truth. And it allows them to open up even more without feeling threatened and resistant. And it allows them to talk. So when it comes to tasks, when you are looking at an object, and you're slowing down, what you are suggesting is the opposite of feeling resistant to it, which is acceptance. You're accepting, you're welcoming, you're open to it, you're present, connected to it. So it's not just about the slowing down and the effect of it, it's also about slowing down in a way that suggests acceptance. You're amplifying the acceptance through the act of slowing down in that way. The nodding, slow nodding is amazing. For conversations, it's amazing.
And in the habits ahead, there's tweaks to this. So everybody stay tuned. There's little tweaks. There's about 2 or 3 different versions of this that are coming up.
Yes.
Yes.
So the other one is look at the object I'll use with a smirk of confidence. Now
here's the thing about
surprised me. This surprised me, but I really like it.
The smirk of confidence. Like if you're looking, okay, so if you are basically smirking, I wouldn't recommend smirking. Now that's something not to use with people.
Not with people.
Don't
with
smirk at
objects.
people.
with objects. When you smirk, you are suggesting to the unconscious mind 2 things. You are suggesting safety. You're not intimidated or threatened by what's in front of you. And you are suggesting competence, that you can do it. And automatically, without saying a word, you're suggesting competence. And the third is you're suggesting that you are open to this interaction, to this collaboration with this object to create that task. It's all happening on an unconscious level. You're just communicating with your body, and you're telling the mind something to help it help you.
Basically.
Well, and when I do this, what I feel, and if I put into words, is like, I got this, no problem. I'm a master of this. This is child's play, child's play. I can do this. I got this. Yeah. That's what comes to mind in terms of words.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can do this. It's possible to do this. I'm not intimidated by it. It's not as hard. It's easy. I accept it. It's going to happen. It boosts. I would love, because I know that there's a lot of, when you celebrate, you're basically releasing dopamine. When you do any physical activity to encourage something, you're releasing dopamine. Whenever there's any form of behavior that suggests progress, you're releasing dopamine. And so dopamine is suppressed the moment you feel threatened. So when it comes to something like this, I'd love to double check and see if the smirk would actually release dopamine, because you're basically conveying, and if you combine that with this, which suggests openness and progress and eagerness, and here's why I'm saying this. In neuroscience, there's something called optic flow. And this is one of the most fascinating things about why running boosts dopamine. Because in optic flow, the brain is basically absorbing through the eyes as you are running or walking or cycling. You're moving forward, right? So things are passing you. You're moving through objects. You're seeing the trees pass. You're moving. That activates what's called the courage circuit in the brain that boosts dopamine.
Huh.
And
Okay.
that is one of the reasons why confronting fear boosts dopamine and allows you to overcome it. And you do it every day in the morning would be amazing to walk.
I have a few things to say about this, but I know we have a time constraint. But I'll just say this. I'm going to practice my smirking. I don't think I smirk very much. So somebody who gives lessons in smirking, sign me up.
Sure, I'll break that down. Absolutely.
And it does relate to the Tiny Habits celebration. So celebrations are like, I got this, you nod. And so smirking, I haven't described as a celebration, but it fits right in there. Nod and smirk to wire in the habit for the reasons you just described. It's the dopamine. Yeah. You're manipulating dopamine and causing the behavior to become more automatic.
And the thing about dopamine is it can easily be manipulated on a conscious level, and a lot of people don't even know that, but you adjust the subjective narrative in your mind. Like they've done a study where there are swimmers that have a screen, if I'm not mistaken, and the screen basically suggests that they're moving. They're not moving. They're just swimming.
Yeah. I'll keep going. Yeah, somebody thought I said smoking. It's smirking.
Oh, no.
Don't smoke.
That's smirking.
Smirk.
So yeah,
Back to the swimming.
Yeah, so they're swimming, and what's interesting is with effort, basically epinephrine is released to give you the energy to keep going. But when there is nothing, there is no information that suggests progress. There's no dopamine release because it feels like you're swimming and nothing is changing. But if the image is changing as though you're actually moving forward, dopamine goes up. And when dopamine goes up, when epinephrine goes up, dopamine allows epinephrine to drop a bit, not enough for the effort, not enough for it to be harder for you to keep going, but to prevent the crash that can happen if dopamine didn't exist. The epinephrine would go so high that then again you will give up.
But then again,
Sam, let me merge.
Yeah.
Let me merge this with part of my work for people listening to me on Clubhouse, and I mean it's mostly your followers here on Instagram. One of the key things in my work that I talk about in my book and elsewhere is help people feel success, the feeling of success, and what Sam just said and talks about that sense of progress. It's the same thing. When you feel successful, yes, it wires in habits, but it has all these other powerful effects. So one of the best things you can do in your life is to learn how to help yourself feel successful, help others around you feel successful. There's massive benefits. And it turns out nodding slowly and smirking are some ways to get there. And then also this forward progression. That's not in our lineup here, but all those ways. And then the bigger thing here, conceptually, is in my Stanford lab, we are working on how to upregulate positive emotions. So Sam, what you just said about these techniques, we're going to bring together, we hope, 200 to 300 different techniques for upregulating positive emotions in various ways. And this will fit into our framework there.
That's amazing.
So that's kind of the merging of what you've done in practice with the experts and with the people you've counseled, and what I've done academically and with Tiny Habits. There are parallels. And that's why Sam and I, from the beginning, were so excited about working together months and months ago.
Absolutely. So where are we now? I lost.
We are headed to another habit, which is
close my eyes.
Combining the nod and the smirk. Did we do that one?
We didn't do that one, but it just amplifies. Just to move on. It just amplifies the effect. Combining these, you can combine them, and that amplifies the effect of each of them. So you can actually do the whole thing. You can smirk, close your eyes, which I'm going to get to right now. Nod slowly, and you already know. So we're layering this. So right now it's close my eyes while facing the object and imagine engaging with it. So when you close your eyes in front of your laptop and imagining the laptop, what's interesting is the laptop is in front of you And you can easily visualize it because you just took a screenshot before you closed your eyes. It's a very interesting perspective, and it really shifts you and allows you to focus. When you engage with it and visualize engaging with it while it's in front of you, it creates that immediacy because you know that all you got to do to get that is to open your eyes and get to work. There are no steps, it's in front of you. But the other thing that's really important, when we close our eyes, we feel safe because we don't close our eyes when we are threatened. When there is a tiger in front of you, you're not going to close your eyes. So when you close your eyes, that suggests to the unconscious mind that you're safe. When you slow down, it suggests that you're safe. And we had that conversation about safety. So that sense of safety relaxes you, allows you to be more focused because the threat will always override anything you want to focus on. I can't enjoy a movie if there's a gun to my head. I can't finish a project if they're and yet the deadlines, the time constraint, the stress, if we just allow ourselves to relax enough to focus, we start building momentum. And guess what? Momentum releases dopamine because that's progress. That's control.
So Sam, let me read what the Tiny Habit recipe is for this. So if you've just joined us, these 12 habits that Sam is sharing, you can find them at tinyhabits.com/recipes. And along the top, if you swipe, the first 12 cards are the habits we're talking about. When you get to the card that says, close my eyes, nod slowly, and imagine doing the task or engaging, one of the pairings is, after I feel myself rushing, I will close my eyes and imagine myself doing the task. So this could fit in what we were talking about, Sam, fits in really well with that one. It can also come in other places, but I like what you picked for this.
I would also, actually for that one, if I'm rushing, for example, was it rushing?
Yeah, that one pairs. Yeah, that was one of the pairings.
I would want to amplify that at some point. So I would recommend that. But I mean, it works as is. But I would close my eyes to feel safe. I would slow down the nod to feel safe. And I would nod to amplify acceptance. Because when you accept what's in front of you, you're automatically suggesting that it's not a threat, which makes you feel safe. So I'm amplifying all the different nonverbals to induce safety, to relax. So I'd combine so much to it. And the smirk for competence, again, control.
Okay. I'm going to demonstrate all except for the smirking. I'm not good at smirking.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's it.
This is interesting because here's the thing, and this is something I suggested as well in conversations. Not just nodding, but imagine you're talking, I'm listening to you, and I'm closing my eyes. Can you imagine how that would feel, how immersed I am in the world and universe that you're creating with the words you're saying?
Wow.
Just closing my eyes while nodding slowly as you're talking. Like I'm really taking it in. So it's really powerful, again, for communication, not just for focus. So
awesome.
So that, which leaves us with one final habit. Engage my peripheral vision awareness for a few moments. Okay, so this one's interesting. What I mean by peripheral vision and awareness is gaze dilation. Let me clarify. We do this all the time spontaneously, and one thing that's really important about that is if you are, for example, sitting in front of someone at the table, dining table, you're at a restaurant, you're looking at the person, locking eyes, you could still, if you're basically activating tunnel vision, you're just seeing them. If you're dilating your gaze, expanding your peripheral awareness, peripheral vision, you're still locking eyes, but you can see what they're wearing. You can see what's behind them, their background, what's happening. You can see what's at the table. And we do this all the time. You can activate that in real time by simply deciding to do it. You can now look at the phone and now look at and take a step back and look at everything around the phone. What's behind the phone? What's in front of you right here? You can see that. That's peripheral vision. What's interesting about this is it releases a circuit in the brainstem that eliminates stress. And so this is something you could do at any time throughout the day to relax, but you can do it for focus, for calm focus when you want to learn something, enjoy something, connect with someone. You can even do it in real time in a conversation. If you're feeling a bit stressed, for whatever reason, has nothing to do with the person, let's say, expand your vision, you begin to relax, and then you come back and you focus on them. It's something so simple to do. And I'm probably going to do a video about nature, but one of the reasons why nature heals us, it relaxes us, is because nature is so open, it spontaneously activates the expansion of the peripheral vision, peripheral awareness. You see everything at a glance.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, you just changed the meaning. I mean, we've been looking at this for a while. I mean, Sam and I have been working on these habits for months. Sam defined them, and then we've been back and forth for a few weeks on them.
Yeah.
I only saw this as peripheral vision, but you've written it as peripheral awareness. So that could be what I'm hearing in the periphery. It could be probably not what I'm tasting, but maybe what I'm feeling in the periphery, like how are my toes feeling? So it's not just visual, it can be, but it's also hearing more in the periphery.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay.
The release in the brainstem, the circuit that is released, that was basically linked to vision as far as I understand, but I will double check that. But I can imagine that awareness of expanding your awareness by heightening your sense of hearing and just hearing everything else in addition to what you're doing, expanding awareness in general of all your senses would amplify that effect, definitely. And nature does it automatically for us. It
just tickles. So yeah.
It's funny. One of the meditations I've evolved, and I'm sure somebody suggested, but just on my own, is I shift my audio attention to different parts. And I do it very deliberately. And it's a quiet setting, but it's, like, oh, I'm hearing 5 sounds. That might be tapping into what you're doing here, where I am practicing. Okay, I'm hearing the hum of the refrigerator. I'm hearing the birds outside. I'm hearing the little, my dog walking on the floor. And I shift and shift and shift. And then I try to sense them all at once and so on. So it's just playing around with that because it gives me something to do while I meditate other than focus on my breathing. So
yes, absolutely.
Interesting. Thank you for teaching me something about that.
It's a pleasure. There's one more thing. There's one, like, we just finished the 12 habits that are on the website, but I would like to share one final habit that is not in the tool, but it's something for everybody that is attended right now. And you're going to hear this first, and it's a 13th habit, and it's going to be available here first. It's not going to be available anywhere else. And it's basically slowing down. I slow down my movements from a 10 to a 5. Here's what I mean, and this is really interesting because we live in a world that is fast-paced. We're constantly rushed, so we are rushing, and there's a default of constantly rushing everything. We just talk faster, we move faster, we research faster. There's always time constraints. And what ends up happening is we're suggesting the constant fear, that threat. There's a threat. I'm avoiding a consequence. And it stresses us out. The power really lies in slowing down in order for us to relax, to have that calm focus. And we can have that with every activity, almost every activity. So a really useful tool that I'd recommend people play with is whatever you're doing. If you could just stop yourself for a moment or just interrupt whatever you're doing, whenever you do anything very quickly, and ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fast is this right now? And it's probably a 10 or a 9. And then ask yourself, okay, so what if I drop it to a 5? How would my body move differently? How would that feel? Drop it to a 5 and see how that feels and see how that works. And you'll realize that most activities, if not all, are more graceful, more elegant, more relaxing, and still actually more precise if you drop it down to a 5. Just drop it down to a 5 and just think about that in any activity. If you're rushing to cook something, or you're going to the kitchen, or you're just just drop it to a 5 and see what happens. Notice what happens to your body and how you feel about it.
So I just did it right now with drinking a little bit of water, Sam. And even though I know people don't want to watch me drink water on Instagram and you can't hear it on Clubhouse, but just doing it slowly and drinking slowly, I felt the effect immediately. And I've done something like this before, and I just want to emphasize what you've said. The effect can be really fast. I mean, just pay attention to the effect. It's like wow, can I really calm myself that easily? And at least in my experience in my life, the answer is yes, just by really slowing down. One of my Tiny Habits colleagues described it as like she's moving through, I want to say molasses. It's like through a fluid that you've got to kind of just go slowly through. And that helps me as well to just feel like I am just moving. And it's not hard. I just slow it down.
No.
And it works. Thank you. So that's number 13. That was like
That's number 13.
habit that's not in the recipe maker
Yes.
yet, but we'll add it. Am I okay if I add it?
Yes.
No. Yes.
No. Yes.
No.
Sure.
Well, you just said it, so I'm not going to. I'm going to accept anything you recommend. The idea was for it to be here, but you want it. You're going to get it, and people are going to have it on the tool. Why not? We do it.
Awesome.
We do it.
That is so great. So what we've done here, everybody, to recap a little bit, and Sam, I know there's Q&A and there's other things that you want to do, but I'm just going to recap. Months ago, Sam and I did an Instagram Live. Some of you attended. Thank you so much. And we talked about habits. We talked about tiny habits. We found similarities between Sam's work and my work and things around safety and broke some new ground there. And then Sam invited all of you to say, what habits do you want? What challenges are you facing? And we got hundreds of responses in a spreadsheet. And we couldn't address them all. I mean, I think there'll be future IG Lives we talk. But the overriding theme that Sam picked was the idea of both productivity and anxiety and putting them together into what Sam named calm focus. And then he crystallized 12 calm focus habits that we just walked through with a bonus 13th. And then I put them into a habit formation tool that you can find at tinyhabits.com/recipes. The calm focus habits are the top cards. Pick the one you want and then sort the bottom cards to find what are you pairing it with. And with that, you can create a recipe or a plan or design a habit to bring into your life for calm focus. And so we've gone from just asking you what you need all the way down to here's a tool that has these habits that Sam has formulated and to help you pair it with the right moments of your life. So, and we've been working on this for a while, and I'm really glad that we've crossed the finish line on this project. I'm sure we'll do others.
Absolutely.
But that's what we've done today. Yeah. And we integrated Clubhouse and Instagram, sort of. I don't know how it works with all on Clubhouse, but there's still people there. So that's good.
That's good. That's good. 3 quick points to touch upon just to close this and move on to Q&A. Number 1, whoever's watching, you can go back to any of my IG Lives and notice how I listen to my guests and notice the nod, the slow nod, okay? And I've done it a lot here anyway, and you probably picked up on that, and I will continue. So you can keep an eye out for that, just to see how that puts the guest at ease as well. So far, people are comfortable, and I'm hoping that you are too, BJ. But every time I interact with people, it's important to make them feel safe, and that's one of the techniques that I do. Slow nodding, in addition to everything else, but that's just one piece. And everybody could do this, and it would just make this world a better place. Just for people to, because I remember the quote, are you listening to what they're saying or are you waiting for your turn? And that was a question quote that I wrote. And the thing is, the answer is in the question, because if you're waiting for your turn, you're no longer listening to what they're saying. And we need to listen to what people are saying instead of waiting for our turn, because that's a distraction from what they're saying. And the answer that we want and the understanding comes by listening completely to what they're saying. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, someone was mentioning life in slow motion. I love that, because I think if people go back to slow motion, if you go into slow motion, what you believe is slow motion, I guarantee you is the normal pace that we should be in, because we're moving too fast, I believe. The third thing is someone was talking about, what if I slow down too much that I feel demotivated? The thing is, when you slow down enough, you can then speed up a bit. Because here's the thing, if you have a card bent 90 degrees, you push it back, it's not going to stick. It's going to go back to 45. If you push it to 90, to 180, it will go back to the center. We need to go to the extreme sometimes to find the middle ground. And you can slow down as much as you want. Then when you speed up, you're not going to go back to how fast you were. You're going to go back to probably a normal speed that you were meant to have in the first place. So that's what I wanted to clarify in terms of slowing down. And I just want to share one last thing. For people that are following me and subscribing and supporting me on Patreon, I just wanted to say thank you. And as a thank you, there is a 14th habit that I will share deep, and I'll do a deep dive on a video that I will post on my Patreon, Sam Karashi, tomorrow. For my patrons that have been supporting me all this time. This is for you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the subscription. It just enables me to focus on creating more content. So thank you. And as a thank you, I will be sharing that tomorrow. And you can ask me questions there as well tomorrow. And I will be adding the answers to these questions into the video. Thank you. So we can now, shall we begin the Q&A?
Bam.
All right.
Let's go.
All right, this is what everybody's been waiting for, the Q&A, because this is what I received a lot of questions for BJ Fogg, and here we go. So I got my laptop next to me, and I'm going to start reading these questions. Okay. Zishan Rabat Sultan was asking, how do I complete a pending task and not procrastinate when I don't feel like it? But it's important to complete the task. So how do I do that?
Yeah. I think some of the habits and some of the things in Recipe Maker will help you here for sure. In addition, there are ways to design starter steps. I mean, some of these habits are starter steps, like envisioning yourself using the object and removing timepieces, turning off notifications. The one tiny habit I use a lot and recommend a lot when here's this thing I have to do, but I don't really want to do it, is I set a timer. And I'll maybe tell my Apple Watch, but I have also a little timer where I set it for 5 or 7 minutes. And that's the tiny habit. After I feel like I'm procrastinating, I'll set a timer for 7 minutes. And I tell myself, okay, BJ, you're going to work on this for 7 minutes. And when the timer goes off, you can stop. Guess what happens when the timer goes off? I've got momentum. Most of the time I don't stop. So you kind of trick yourself. But guess what? I can trick myself over and over and over in that way. And so that is one technique that's helped me a lot. But I think some of the things we covered here in this Instagram Live are also applicable to this for sure.
What I love about that is you're basically tricking your brain to release dopamine. Because you're doing 7 minutes, you gain momentum, dopamine's up, and now you're motivated. So when you're done, you already have what you needed at the beginning to keep going. So I love that. Okay. Sadev Chauhan is asking about how to train your mind to be patient. Now, I'm not sure if that was for me or not, but it was Fogg. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've been talking for a lot, so I'm going to stop. I want to hear you tell it.
That's hard. I don't pretend to be an expert on that. So Sam, I'm going to make a guess and then you chime in.
Okay.
I think it depends what you're going to, if it's patience with yourself, I'll give an answer with patience with myself. And it goes to tiny habits. So after I'm feeling frustrated with myself, like I'm not achieving enough or whatever, that I'm not being patient, I say, everyone does the best they can. Nobody tries to screw up. And I direct that toward myself. It's like when that chatter's going on and I'm not patient with myself, I say, look, I'm doing the best I can. I'm not trying to screw up. And that helps me have more compassion for myself. I will use that for other people as well. Like if I lose patience with somebody or get frustrated with somebody, that's now a very natural reaction. And if I'm somewhere in public, I don't say it out loud, but I say it very vividly in my mind. Everyone does the best they can. Nobody tries to screw up. And it really helps me be less frustrated and more patient.
Yes. I would add to that, patience to me, impatience is linked to anxiety. And usually when people are, high speed, and this is perfect because we just talked about rushing. Rushing is a sign of impatience. Impatience is a sign of anxiety. When you slow down, you start slowing down and using some of these habits, you slow down, you start to relax, you start to basically practice patience, because slowing down is an indirect practice of patience. If you are impatient because of someone in front of you, for example, you're feeling impatient about them, there's a frustration there potentially. So what I would do in generally is I would think of the person. So when I think about that person that I'm impatient with, or that I'm feeling impatient with every single time I'm anxious or something, when I think about that person, I can feel. And you can release all the emotions you have linked to that person. And that's another application of that. And suddenly, whatever was inside that was built up that made it hard for you to tolerate, to accept, is gone, because that's a resistance. Impatience is a form of resistance if you think about it. So I would say release the emotions, capture the emotions that you feel, and that lightens the load. There's one thing I didn't mention. It's good to always do an exaggerated deep breath in and out, in through the nose, out the mouth, at least 3 to 5 times after you're done with the release. So it's something like 5 times would be ideal after you do that exercise, which can be written, by the way, or expressed verbally. You can express it verbally. It doesn't have to be written. But writing has a different effect, but you can do it either way. So just wanted to make that nuance.
Wow.
Are you okay?
Well, the breathing and the drinking didn't go together.
Okay. Let's take a break. All right.
I'm crying because what you said was truly impactful, but I'll make a joke.
Thank you.
Bam.
It was,
I'm ready for more.
It was so profound, right? You teared up. It was so profound.
So profound. Okay, next question.
Next question.
Jacob Osmanov. Okay. I'm Jacob from Tashkent. Some habits are truly unbreakable. So is mine, as I presume. I've been addicted to smoking for over 10 years now. Whatever I've done to give it up hasn't worked out. I'm a Muslim and I know it's forbidden to smoke in Islam. Nonetheless, I haven't been able to resist my temptations to it. What should I do? Could you please give me a concrete method that really works? So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So even though I've studied habits and I have a tiny habits method that's helped thousands and thousands, it's different than breaking a habit like smoking. So I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert on that, and I'm not. I will suggest 2 specific things. They may not be surprises to you, but this is as far as I can answer. 1, learn how to create new habits and do the tiny habits method to learn how to create new habits. Changing your behavior is a skill, and by practicing the tiny habits method, you will get more skilled. Number 2, at the same time, I would reach out to a professional who specializes in helping people that are addicted to smoking. A professional that does that. Ideally, that's all she or he does. Addictions seem to wire into our brain in different ways. I mean, all habits form in the same way. They start tiny, they find a good spot, and they get nurtured. They all form in the same way. But the way that you uproot habits, especially ones that we might consider addictions, is more complicated and it's different. So that's why I'm not giving you, here's your answer, but instead referring you and encouraging to reach out to somebody who is an expert, that's what they do, and they have a lot of success in that domain.
Okay. Thank you. What I would add to that is, first of all, I am a Muslim, and what you said about forbidden, I get the rationale, because in Islam it's unacceptable to hurt others or hurt yourself, harm others or harm yourself. It is unacceptable. It is forbidden. And people that smoke are harming themselves. That's fine. Everybody's got a choice, but I mean, it's obvious, it's fact. But here's the thing. There are different, just to kind of clarify that, but there are different, there are groups. There are certain scholars that would argue that. There are certain scholars. It's a bit controversial. It's a bit debatable. But from that angle, I agree with you. Now, in terms of what to do, just to be clear, in terms of what to do, I dealt with smoking cessation for 7 years when I was in the addiction hospital. It wasn't just about drugs. It was also about people stopping smoking. But I'm no longer licensed, so I'm not going to give that advice in terms of that aspect. But what I will say is, again, and what I would like to do, and I think this was not my intention, but what I would like to do is I would like to capture this opportunity to kind of drill this in, to understand the value of what this does. It is one of the most powerful tools I've ever come across in my entire life. And I'm just going to keep on mentioning it. When it comes to smoking, Dr. Gabor Mate, who's known as probably the top expert on addiction in the world, and I had a conversation with him about different aspects 2 years ago. But what's interesting about this is he talks about not why the addiction, but why the pain. Addiction is linked to pain. Addiction is linked to fear. It's linked to an emotional wound. And so if you know when you started doing therapy for that specifically, for that event that you are adapting, addiction is an adaptation to an emotional wound. If you identify what that is, it's easy for you to seek professional help and talk about this. Psychotherapy can help definitely with that. But one thing I would suggest is the idea of emotional expression. One thing you can do is, for example, because there are different nuances here, when I think about stopping smoking, I can feel there is a resistance to stopping that habit. And now you can release that emotion related to that. So that's another way that's one way that can help. It doesn't necessarily solve the problem, but will lighten the load, minimize the resistance to stopping. But then there's that aspect of what was the original wound that was connected to that. The other thing I would say is there's a book that might be helpful. Alan Carr. I don't know if you've heard about it, BJ Fogg.
Mm-hmm. I have.
Alan Carr, The Easy Way to Stop Smoking. It's one of the most successful. It has the highest success rate that I've come across from a single book. A lot of celebrities, they're not even paid to promote it, but they've used it and it was so effective. Now, I would argue that it would be even more effective if you tie that into what was recommended right now about emotional expression. Because this is about belief interruption, but beliefs are tied into an emotion. If you start doing this exercise and releasing emotions and then going for that book, it would be really interesting to see what happens. But I would always recommend seeking a medical professional, medical help. Go to see a consultant who is certified, licensed to do that. Definitely. So, okay. All right, let's keep going. Kitty Catch. I love that name. How to get myself to do the things I want to do, but for some reason haven't got around to it, such as taxes, reading emails that have been accumulating for months, sorting through papers, home renovation, start my business, etc. I know part of the answer is to break down these long, complex tasks into smaller chunks, but the motivation is nearly zero.
Yeah. Kitty Catch, and from your comments, I think you know my work. So I'm going to answer it in terms that maybe is not familiar to everybody. I would focus map those tasks. So take those tasks, focus map them, and then start in the upper right-hand corner, the most golden ones, and start doing them. You will, even though you feel like you're not motivated to do any of them, there are going to be some that end up in the upper right-hand corner of the focus map. So sure, I'll do that one. And just start from the upper right and work your way down. For those of you that haven't read Tiny Habits or haven't worked with me on focus mapping, it's a way to prioritize things. Top to bottom, it's prioritization according to impact. How impactful will this be? And you have to decide to what end. And you might say, how impactful would this be to helping me be happier? You might say, how impactful would it be to help me be financially secure? Whatever it is you're shooting for. And then you sort things side to side according to whether you can get yourself to do it or not. And so the ones you end up focusing on first are the ones that will have high impact and that you can get yourself to do. And so focus mapping, there's so many ways to use it, but for being overwhelmed with so many projects and so many tasks, I think it's the best way. Now, it might mean there are some things that have low impact and you can't get yourself to do it and you may never get to those things. But that's just the reality. We're not going to get to everything. But if we prioritize effectively and often, we'll do the things that are most impactful and most important. And there's just some things we'll never get to. I mean, there's emails I've received that even though I would love to respond to them. I'm not gonna, because there's just others that are higher priority, and I also have to not work all the time too. So just, that's, I guess the end of my answer there is just coming to grips with the fact that we can't do everything and that we do the best we can. And I feel really confident that I'm doing the best I can when I focus map those things and prioritize in that way.
Thank you, BJ. Russia, and that's an Arabic name, Russia, rather than the country, says, I wish you guys could discuss how to feel good about ourselves and how to manage between private life and social one. Thank you.
Wow.
I know.
I'm going to go to what I know for sure.
Okay.
And that's the Tiny Habits method. If you follow that method, that means you create habits, and the habits are really easy to do, and you help yourself feel successful within 5 days. At the end of the 5-day program, we evaluate, and it's gone on for 10 years, where there's 5-day session, evaluation, and so on. So I have 500,000 data points. That's the last time I counted, like 500,000 data points on how habits work. What I know for sure is by doing that method, and not by tackling huge things, but by creating these habits, even though they're tiny, and allowing yourself to feel successful, you can transform how you feel about yourself. So I'm going to go to that very specifically. Now, there's probably other ways of doing it, but that's the method I know. That's the method I've taught. That's the method I trained hundreds of coaches to use, and they're very effective. So it's not just working with me. It's doing the method, and you can get free help from a coach at tinyhabits.com/join, tinyhabits.com/join. That's the 5-day program. It's free. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden motive. We are helping people because that's who we are. We want to help people. So that's that would be my approach.
I would add one thing to it, because Russia, you were asking me to participate in that. To feel good about yourself and then manage between private and social life. To manage between private and social life, it's important to basically self-prioritize. Focus on yourself first. We need to feel safe. We need to feel abundant. We need to feel competent. Are you giving yourself alone time? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you allowing yourself to feel valuable? Because if we feel valuable, if we feel valued, if we feel accepted, there are different things that we can do to enhance, but self-focus, instead of being constantly selfless and focusing on other people, which is great, but to prioritize and be of better service to others, start with yourself. Focus on yourself first. Nourish, fill your cup to use it to basically to basically help others, and it would help you manage life. Because if you don't focus on yourself, you don't value yourself, it affects your self-worth, self-esteem. When you want to manage your personal life, social life, when you want to prioritize, you're always going to dismiss yourself and trivialize yourself because you never really gave yourself enough attention to realize that you're valuable. And so you always will focus on other people instead of focusing on yourself first. And it's hard to basically help others if you don't help yourself. So that would be the thing I would suggest. But this is a huge topic. We could actually talk at least for 30 minutes about this. So we can move on to the next one, but I hope this answers your question, Russia. Sarpreet was asking, if I don't have a great struggle story in my life and don't have big contacts, then how can I become a successful speaker? Could you help me in that? I would imagine she was talking to both of us, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think for sure you can. And I won't say, why do you want to be a speaker? I love teaching primarily. And if I speak, that's fine. But I really love teaching. So I seek out any opportunity to teach. But yes, you can be a keynote speaker and a valuable one if you are the world's expert on a topic that people care about. So you don't have to have a lot of emotional trauma and a big story to become a world's expert. I know that sounds hard, but there's a 5-step process for becoming a world's expert. It's not as hard as it sounds. And one of the keys, I'll just give one of the keys because I don't want to get too off, is focus. Focus very, very, very tightly on a topic. And by having a very tight focus, you can learn everything in that field. You can do your own research and innovation and then know things that nobody else knows. So focus on a topic that other people care about, become the world's expert, and then I think there will be organizations that want to have you as a speaker. But I would think of it as teaching. Like, how do I teach and share? Because when you do that well, then people that invite speakers, they find you and they want effective teachers. They want, so that's how I see it. Because I'm not like a motivational speaker. I don't consider myself that at all. I'm a teacher that shares my stuff to help people. And if I'm doing it in a keynote, terrific, you know.
Thank you, BJ.
I resist the title motivational speaker. Sam, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll just say because I mean I have 700,000 on my page right now, followers, and I started with nothing. And that was exactly the question I had. I don't have a great struggle story. I don't have any contacts. How can I become a successful speaker? You do it. You start reaching out. You start practicing speaking and you get better at it. Number one, that's the only way to do it. The best way to, you're only ready when you start. Start, do it, get it done, practice, consistency. People want to see someone constantly growing. They'd love to share the journey. And so when you do that, let's say online, if that's what you want to do, it's really about consistency. It's really about getting your face out there for people to see your value, because the contacts will only come when you are exposing yourself to the world. It doesn't work the other way around where you're waiting for the contacts to come and then you're ready to do that. It's actually the other way around. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't start. That would be my addition to that. Okay. Norman Gull. How to be sincere and serious in studies. I love the way that was phrased, personally.
I'll give a quick answer, Norman. It may not be really what you're asking. To be sincere and serious in your studies, pick a topic that you love. Pick a topic you're totally passionate about, if you can. I know there's some requirements you have to do and just get through those things. And there are ways to approach that, but above all things, if you can, pick a topic that you love, that you're really curious about, and then it's easy to study hard and be really sincere. And go sit down with professors or your teachers and say, tell me more. And you're not saying that to get a grade. You're saying that because you're really interested. And your professors or teachers are going to go, oh my gosh, this is what I signed up for, was to help people like this. So there's something really wonderful about finding, and I think there's more than one thing, but finding something that you really, really are passionate about and just pursuing it like crazy.
Absolutely. I can't top that, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and keep moving. Manish Ghoshal. Expectations in a relationship are definitely needed. However, it can sometimes make a beautiful relationship not feel as beautiful anymore. I feel that I'm starting to lose something that I never had. My partner is a lovely person, but more and more expectations are a bit cumbersome to deal with every day. It'd be great if you and BJ Fogg could help me out. Thanks.
Okay, well, I'll start. So my partner and I have been together 30 years. And we've really figured a lot of things out, because you don't have a partnership for 30 years without knowing how to do that. But I don't counsel others. So Sam, I'm handing off to you, because it's just sort of like, I don't want to give advice based on just my own personal experience. So Sam, I know you do a lot more of this than I do.
To be honest, it's a question that would take time to really flesh out. But what I would say, because there are a lot of other questions, but I want to do it justice. Expectations is an issue in relationships, and expectations is a way to contaminate your ability to enjoy anything. Personally, my motto is expect nothing, enjoy everything. When you minimize your expectations, you can have an outcome. You can aim for an outcome, but not be attached to it. Like, so for example, you can start a journey, have a goal, and move, but focus on the effort, focus on the journey, not the destination, in order to enjoy, because the most value you will get is in the journey, not the destination. The destination is going to be short-lived. As soon as you get there, you're like, okay, so that was it. Where do I move from there? Which is something I would suggest people to enjoy when they arrive and celebrate properly when they achieve. but it's important to be non-attached when it comes to outcomes. So in terms of expectations, be clear on your boundaries of what you're not okay with, and be clear on what you want. Wants are different than expectations, because usually most expectations are never conveyed or communicated in relationships. That's the thing. I expected them to do that. Well, did you ask them? No. Did you tell them? No. Of course you're going to be disappointed because you didn't tell them what you want. But expectations raises dopamine, and when what happens doesn't meet the expectation, you're going to be disappointed. But the absence of the dopamine rush that comes from the expectation allows for the dopamine from whatever they do to be so much higher. And that's why if I don't watch a trailer in a movie, I end up enjoying the movie a lot more if I don't know anything about the movie. So one of my favorite movies of all time, not just because it's incredible, but because I didn't know anything about it. I was 7 years old or 8 years old, and I walked in the cinema with my sister, big sister, and we went to see Back to the Future. And I had no idea what it was. So imagine a kid getting into something that was that good in terms of time travel, and it was amazing because I didn't know. The dopamine rush was amazing. It was intense. It wouldn't have been that intense if I knew what it was. There wouldn't be any surprise. There wouldn't be any awe. But if we keep having expectations, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment in relationships. So hopefully that would cover this, Manish. I do apologize because this is a really big topic and it's important, but there are a lot of questions. So I'm sorry. So Mariumi. Hi, Dr. Sam. Okay, this one's for me. I'm going to quickly touch upon it. Let me just see. My question is how to deal with the fear that comes after moving from the comfort zone. The fear that comes after change. It is more like a panic attack. Seriously, it is a panic attack that makes me go back to my comfort zone, undo whatever I have done. This fear is doubled or even tripled because of the people surrounded me who keep blaming. Okay, when I was in the ice bath, stepping into the ice bath requires preparation. No one jumps into the ice bath with Wim Hof without preparing. So one thing I would suggest for any comfort zone breaking through that barrier, prepare yourself to break through that barrier, because you'd set up yourself up to fail if you don't prepare. The second would be graduality. Pass through that gradually. If it's sudden, it's a stronger shock to the system, and we don't want that. The third is duration of exposure. If I fear snakes and I'm exposed to a snake, the longer I spend time with the snake without the snake harming me, the more evidence my mind is gathering that the snake is not dangerous. And there's a breaking point. So it's really about the duration of exposure outside of the comfort zone, long enough for the mind to realize that part should be part of the comfort zone. So you're expanding your comfort zone by spending time. But the way to do it is graduality and preparation and focusing on the duration, and obviously calming yourself down before, during that journey to cross that barrier, and while you're there. So that would be my answer. Would you like to add something to that, BJ?
No, I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. Adil Rashid, how to make a habit out of a reading. I'm not able to read for an hour or more. Please help me out. How can I mold myself to get the habit of reading for enough time or for long enough?
Boom. Tiny Habits works really well here. First and foremost, just like any habit that you pick habits you want. So pick readings that you want. Don't try to force yourself to read things you don't want. So first of all, select material you want. Next, make it really easy to do. And it might be get the book out and put it right by where you're reading and leave it out. And then you also make it easy to do by scaling back, not even reading a chapter and not even a page. Scale it back to a paragraph, or if that's too big, to a sentence. But a paragraph is often good. And then find where that fits naturally in your life. So we're just doing the Tiny Habits method. So it might be after I start the coffee maker, I will read one paragraph from this book I love. Now, if you want to read more than one paragraph, you can, but you set the bar low at one sentence, one paragraph. And any day that you do more, you count it as extra credit. You count it as like, good for me, I'm going above and beyond. And as you open the book to read, tell yourself, good for me, I'm doing a good job on this habit. So you celebrate it. So pretty quickly, I went through the Tiny Habits method as applied to reading. And there's more to unpack there, but the Tiny Habits method definitely can help you become a consistent reader. It will not get you to create a habit of reading things you hate for hours. There's no magical way to do that, okay? So just to be clear, there's no magical way other than signing up for a course at Stanford or somewhere and being forced to by your grade. But that's not a habit. That's compliance, not a habit. So there you go. That's how I see it.
Thank you, BJ. Hero Preston. I would love help with forking habits around food preparation. I know about BJ Fogg's Super Fridge, but that's the one thing in the book not covered. How do you build the habit of food prep? As I see, now it's essential for healthy eating. Thank you so much. Let me pause for a second. I had to read it the way it was because my reply to her was forking habits. I was thinking, I didn't read that in your book, but I thought that was a great phrase, forking habits for food preparation. Is that something you coined? And so I basically said,
that's novel. Congratulations with a new type of habit.
Well, I just sent her the message, and when I replied to her to thank her for the message, I was like, "Oh, that's great." And she's like, "No, I meant forming habits." I was like,
she was like,
I like forking though.
I love forking. I know.
Right? Forking habits.
Yeah.
So Super Fridge.
Yes.
I talk about a little in my book, and it's a way of arranging your fridge where everything in there is on your eating game plan. There's nothing you have to resist. And everything is very simple. Just grab and prepare.
Yeah.
It does take a weekly practice, a weekly task of refreshing the fridge. And you can either do it habitually, like, every Saturday at noon after you come home from soccer practice, after that you do it, or you can just design it into your schedule as a task and not a habit. It doesn't have to be a habit. There's a lot of things we do once a week reliably that are not things we do automatically, as long as you get it done. So I would think of it more as a weekly task or a weekly action that you do to recharge your super fridge, not as a weekly habit. Because as long as it gets done, then during the week, it makes it much easier to stay in your game plan. And super fridge it's great to do. It does take minimum probably 15 minutes, and it could take up to an hour to prepare your fridge, but it saves you so much time during the week, and you stay on your nutrition game plan much, much better.
Thank you, BJ. Obviously, there's a lot more, and I'm looking at the time, and it's 7 minutes away from 10, so it's 7 minutes away from 2 hours, and I'm not sure if we can actually go beyond that, and I wouldn't want that to be... Obviously, I wouldn't want to lose this because I want more people to see this on Instagram, on YouTube. The questions that remain can always be re-explored, but one thing to announce to the audience is that we already talked, BJ and I were talking about a third interview which covers the things we didn't cover the first time. Celebration. We didn't talk about celebration. We didn't talk about the continuation of the different topics we wanted to talk about related to the book, which is something we're going to do. We haven't announced it yet, but I'm announcing it now that we will have a third interview for everybody. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yay.
So we're 6 minutes away. We're going to have to wrap this up. As much as I would love to go on and as much as I'd love to answer these questions, I'm going to hold on to these questions for anybody that was waiting. I'm not going to skip them. They're there. We can easily slip them into the next interview. But yeah, we did not expect this live to unfold the way it is, but I think it unfolded beautifully, and we unpacked a lot. So I hope you found a lot of value in this. BJ, do you have anything you'd like to share with us before we wrap up?
Yeah, maybe two things. One question that kept coming up I didn't answer, and then one fun, goofy thing.
Yeah.
The question is, when is my book coming out in Spanish? It's coming out in various languages at different times. Creo que el libro en español va a salir en agosto de este año, pero no estoy seguro. Si quieres saber más, mándame un email a bjfogg@stanford.edu y yo voy a averiguar la fecha. That was my clumsy way in Spanish of saying the book's coming out, I think, in August in Spanish. So for those of you that asked that, the other thing I want to wrap up with is my little dog Millie has gotten on my lap during the Instagram Live. You might have heard her walking around the house. But if you can have a pet, if you can have a dog, so healthy. It helps routinize your life, and it's easier to create habits when you're more routinized. And there's just something really wonderful about, having a sweet, especially a dog in your life. It's so healthy. So I know that's totally off topic, but you said anything else to share? So
no, of course.
Of course, you can share whatever you want. I just want to touch upon the fact. Okay, so we're going to have a third session. We're going to have a third interview, and for anybody, Tiny Habits. If you haven't gotten the book, I highly recommend getting it. You're going to have this live on my IGTV. It's going to come out on YouTube as well. You also have access to the first one as well. It's an incredible book written by the world leading expert in habit formation. And you've had him for 2 hours. I know I talked a lot at the beginning, but it was really about the habits, about the toolmaker itself as well, which you can have access to. And I'm going to create a swipe up for that as well. So you can swipe up to that. I'll also create a swipe up for getting his book through Amazon. And I hope you enjoyed your time, everyone that was watching. BJ, it is an absolute pleasure to have you. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you again. And I look forward to our next discussion.
Absolutely. Likewise.
And I'll just say, everybody, Sam cares so much about you. He, in the couple months that we've been planning this, you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. I saw some of it. He works really, really hard, I suspected he did, but I saw more behind the scenes. He's really committed and dedicated to helping you. So I just wanted to call that out, Sam, because it's just the truth. And so I love what you're doing, and I look forward to our next talk together.
Likewise. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. And it just brings me joy to craft something that is useful. And we did this together. And I deeply appreciate your support from the very beginning since January. And I hope everyone benefits from this in the best way possible. Thank you, BJ. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And please tell Danny I said hi, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
I will. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Take care.